Hi guys! Today we'll be recapping a story called The Duchess's 50 Tea Recipes. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. Enjoy! Despite being the Duchess, all Chloé Battenberg ever receives is mockery and disrespect from her servants. She has gotten used to it by now after spending a week in this strange world. You see, she first appeared in this world totally confused. Everyone's attitude towards her was inexplicable, and she naturally felt angry for a time. But then she got used to it. The thing is, she's not the original Chloé. She was born in Korea and was known as Park Ha-jeong. She has lived her life trying to gain people's approval. In her job, she would do everything to please her boss, working harder than anyone else. Her boss makes her do more work just because she accepts it with a smile on her face, no matter how demanding the project is. When she got a new colleague, she ended up doing his unwanted projects, all because he knew that she would do it without questions. He would then proceed to shamelessly take credit for her excellent work. Because she was known as a pushover, she handled all the undesirable projects, even the high-risk ones. She did her best. However, when one of the projects failed, the people around her easily turned on her. Her boss blamed her for the fiasco. Worse is that he made her resign. Even after all the things she had sacrificed, this was how she was treated. The day she lost her job, she cried herself to sleep, vowing that she would no longer seek anyone's approval. When she woke up the next morning, she was now in this world. She is now a mistreated duchess with rooms piled up with dirt and with maids and servants who mock her. One thing is for sure though, she is not actually Chloé Battenberg, and she refuses to be treated this way any longer. There is only one good thing about her current situation. The memories of the original Chloé are still with her. The girl is beautiful, however, her personality is off-putting. Compared to her, the original Chloé is 20 times worse. She never wanted to be hated by others. The girl had low self-esteem and often made mistakes just so she could please others. The poor girl became the laughingstock of society. At present, Chloé is in her room when the servants burst in deliberately late, some of them even laughing. Ugh, I can't stand these people! Show some respect! The head maid is confused when she sees that the Duchess has already dressed herself. Chloé looks at these people who openly mock her and sees the faces of her old boss and colleagues. That is when she knows that she has to say something. She puts on a brave face and tells them that they can't just neglect her like this, and if they do it again, there will be no forgiveness. The maids are surprised that she is acting this way, and they continue to mock her. The head maid, Mrs. Colleen, is the worst of them all. Chloé will not stand for it any longer. With a stern look on her face, she tells Mrs. Colleen to come closer. When she does, Chloé slaps her straight in the face. Ha! Take that! Just you wait. Karma will surely come for you, Mrs. Colleen. Chloé tells Colleen that she has to follow her orders. She tells the other maids that what she did is a result of their negligence. She warns them that the next time they're late, it won't just be a slap. Go, girl! Show them who's literally the boss! After she dismissed the maids, Chloé celebrates standing up for herself. She knows that she bragged about giving punishments earlier, but currently, she doesn't have much authority. Old Chloé messed up the management of the mansion, so the right to supervise the people was passed down to the warden and maidservant. The butler even had to hire a financial expert to take care of the many mistakes committed by the lady of the house. Chloé's husband, the Duke, had no idea about what happened, which is why Chloé can't punish or fire any employee. Ellie, one of the maids, comes to visit her later on. Among the servants, Ellie is the only one on her side. The maid comes to apologize to her about what happened earlier, and Chloé accepts this without questions. After all, Ellie has been taking care of her even though the other maids have made her an outcast herself. When she goes for a walk, she thinks about all the ways she wants to live her life now. She is now determined to get the one thing she really wants. So later on, as she is having dinner with her husband, she speaks to him for the first time. She tells him that she needs something. When he asks what it is, she answers that she needs tea. The Duke is shocked by her unusual request. This is the first time she's asking him for something after all. Duke Alphonse Battenberg is the perfect husband. He has wealth, power, and beauty. However, their relationship is a mere business contract. Not wanting to fall in love, the Duke included in the contract that the woman he is marrying is not allowed to fall in love with him. Chloé is the first perfect choice for this. Through her parents, it's been 13 months since Chloé managed to get into a political marriage with Alphonse. In a way, Alphonse turns out to be the worst husband. Despite giving her dresses and jewelry, he ignores her all the time. The old Chloe was even afraid due to his intimidating aura. So his surprise at her current request is only natural. However, Chloe is determined. She tells him about her fondness for tea and tells him that tea is inexpensive enough not to burden his finances. The Duke then stops her, and she instantly notices that his gaze becomes sharp. She realizes that she has wounded his ego by implying that his wealth is easily depleted. Ow, this man is obviously quite prideful. This is why he finally agrees. Chloe recalls that before she woke up in this body, tea had always been her source of comfort. Even after facing her boss's awful moods, a cup of tea could always make her happy. The next day, the tea arrives and she excitedly exits her room to see for herself. However, she is surprised to see how much tea was delivered. There are tons of boxes of them. She clarifies with the butler if this is really the tea that's supposed to be drank, but the butler assures her that it is. Chloe realizes that Alphonse is clearly showing off his wealth. Still, she is quite grateful to him and plans to thank him during dinner. As she is about to try one of the teas, she spots Ellie going up the stairs. She instantly invites her to join her for tea, but the poor maid has a lot of things to do. Chloe notices how overworked the poor girl is, her hands already wrinkled from labor. Since she is the youngest maid, her seniors are clearly taking advantage of her. She then tells Ellie to tell Mrs. Miller that she called for her. Later on, she and Ellie go to the kitchen. The people there are quite surprised to see a noblewoman in the kitchen. She asks for a copper kettle to boil water with, and even though the servants are reluctant to serve her, yeah, the irony, right? She still manages to get one as well as some cups. Her first attempt at making the tea fails, all because the type of water this place has. The water here is soft water. She realizes that since the water here is soft, she will have to boil the water the way she did in Korea. And when she takes the first sip this time, the tea is delicious. She gives Ellie some of the black tea, and the maid likes it so much as well. Later on, Chloe thinks about how the people in this place are not used to drinking tea at all. Some even refer to it as vulgar and barbaric. Suddenly, Mrs. Miller enters the room to tell her that she wants the Duchess to stop calling for Ellie in the future. She even tells her that Ellie has been punished. Chloe is enraged, questioning why this is so when Ellie is just following her orders. Mrs. Miller dares to tell her that the Duchess has no reason to interfere with the affairs of the maids. Excuse me? She is the Duchess! These people are underestimating her position. You just watch people as she puts you in your place. Chloe reminds her that she is the Duchess of Battenberg, so who could possibly have more authority between the two of them? Mrs. Miller is shocked, knowing what the Duchess is implying. Chloe vows to punish her if she ever disobeys her orders again. Later on, Chloe finds Ellie working hard again. She tells her that she doesn't have to do that again and that she won't be receiving any punishments like this in the future. Since Ellie is looking tired and thirsty, Chloe invites her over for tea again. When they are settled in a room, 3 knights suddenly burst into the room. They thought it was empty, so they sheepishly apologize before attempting to leave. But the Duchess stops them, offering them to join them for a cup of tea. The knights, Balt, Cain, and Jacob, respectfully accept her invitation. Since Ellie and the knights are obviously exhausted, Chloe decides to serve them iced fruit tea. The beverage is quite new to her guests, and when they taste it, they are amazed by how delicious it is. It even easily quenches their thirst. Meanwhile, Chloe is overjoyed to finally have people to drink tea with. When Jacob gets back to the training ground, he tells the other knights about the tea that the Duchess gave them. He brags about how delicious it was. But then another knight comments that the Duchess doesn't seem very capable. The knights who spent a pleasant time with the Duchess are outraged by such a comment. They instantly defend her honor, and Jacob even challenges the knight to a duel. The captain, Valentero, takes notice of the commotion and questions them about it. When he finds out that some of the knights are treating the Duchess so casually, he scolds them for it. He puts them on probation, including Thompson, the one who dares to insult the madam. Later on, the captain informs the Duke about the matter. However, Alphonse doesn't seem to care. He even orders the captain not to report anything trivial about his wife to him. Wow, this person really doesn't care about his own wife. Meanwhile, Chloe is happily arranging her different teas on the shelf. Later on, the butler, Kale, offers to help her with her task. Soon enough, the two of them manage to finish arranging the teas. Chloe expresses her gratitude, and in doing so, she offers to serve him some tea. Kale gladly accepts the offer. However, when they enter a room, she is surprised to see the Duke sitting there. Husband and wife greet each other stiffly, and Chloe has to deal with so much awkwardness. After all, they hardly speak with each other. Surprisingly, Alphonse asks her if they're planning to drink some tea. She answers yes. The Duke asks her to brew him a cup as well. Before she can answer, the butler hurriedly excuses himself. The two of them are left alone. Chloé can't believe what is happening, but she politely asks the Duke what kind of tea he likes. Alphonse is more than surprised that after 13 months, Chloé finally asks for something. Lately, she doesn't even avoid eye contact anymore. It's as if she turned into a different person. He watches her closely as she serves him a cup of tea. When he takes the first sip, the Duke is taken aback that despite the prejudice against the drink, the scent is neither lacking nor vulgar. The black tea is sweet, dry, and scentless. He even finishes the entire cup. Chloé is then surprised when the Duke asks if she can brew him some tea again next time. Oh, is someone growing soft? Chloé happily tells him that it'll be her pleasure. Later on, Chloé receives an invitation from the daughter of Marquise Belladonna. Because it is part of her duties as a duchess, Chloé decides to show up even though the real Chloé never joined social gatherings after ruining the first gathering she organized. During the event, the Lady Belladonna inquires about her knowledge of tea. The ladies begin mocking her for her peculiar taste, calling it barbaric and whatnot. The Lady Belladonna continues by saying that her uncle once gave her black tea, but the bitterness overwhelmed her. This causes the ladies to laugh at Chloé even more. It's not even funny. Seriously, these people are prejudiced in the weirdest of ways. Instead of getting angry, Chloé explains that her uncle needs to learn how to prepare tea properly. The lady is instantly outraged, but Chloé calmly explains that when prepared properly, tea will not be bitter and overwhelming. Instead, it will be very soft and fragrant. When she is not affected by their backhanded comments, they decide to attack the fact that she struggles in social gatherings. They even bring up the incident she was involved with a year ago. Lady Horton continues to mock her, expressing her fake concern over her well-being. Chloé is sure that the ladies are expecting her to cry or be embarrassed. Instead, she smiles pleasantly and thanks her for her concern. Kill them with kindness, am I right? Lady Horton becomes uneasy, especially since Chloé is not reacting the way she wanted. Chloé even assures her that she is all right now and that it was all in the past. She then questions if Lady Horton really wants her to be all right. The lady is horrified. She knows that if Chloé takes advantage of the Battenberg position, then she is in deep trouble. Lady Horton instantly apologizes for offending. The Duchess still maintains a pleasant disposition throughout the exchange. Our girl clearly has the upper hand now. Later on, after having dinner with the Duke, he asks if they can have tea together again. She instantly beams at him, happy to do so. She gives Alphonse a chance to choose the tea leaves this time. Among the choices, he favors Lapsang Souchong, a tea known for its smokiness. When she serves him the tea, he is surprised to see that she brought ham with her. The Duke is quite confused by such a weird combination. Alphonse usually has ham with his wine, so it is quite strange that it's now being served with tea. He's even more surprised when he takes a sip and notices that it tastes like bacon. Chloé happily explains to him that Lapsang Souchong, like bacon, is also smoked. Alphonse, however, still feels like something is missing. That is when Chloé offers him that ham. When he tastes it, he realizes that the ham is perfect for the tea. He then watches Chloé give out an explanation about the different meats that can be paired with the tea. She even mentions that the tea is from the country of On. When asked if she likes the cuisine in On, she answers with a resounding yes, showing her enthusiasm. The Duke can only stare at her. After their pleasant time together, Chloé tells him that he can come anytime he wants. After all, having someone to drink tea with is the feeling she likes most in the world. Alphonse is not a man of leisure. He feels empty when he has nothing to do. However, when he drinks tea with Chloé, he doesn't feel that emptiness. Somehow, it makes him feel relaxed. Meanwhile, the maids and servants are gossiping about how much time the Duke and Duchess are spending time together. When one of the maids mentions that the madam has changed, Mrs. Colleen interrupts her angrily. The head maid tells them that the relationship between the Duke and the Duchess will return to normal and that they should stop spouting nonsense. Mrs. Colleen refuses to believe that Chloé has changed. My gosh, this woman is absurd. Lady Colleen was born as the second daughter of Count Colleen. During her childhood, Lady Colleen was treated as an outcast by the other noble kids. However, everything changed when Chloé's family moved to the capital. Chloé became the new prey of the aristocracy. Mrs. Colleen was able to bully her as well, just so she could finally stand on the same level as the other kids. She knows that Chloe needs to stay below her, otherwise she'll drop to the bottom again. When Chloe becomes the Duchess, Countess Colleen is given to Chloe as the head maid because her family business is facing hardship. Even so, she sees herself as above Chloe. The maids and servants are afraid of her. Later on, Chloe encounters the 3 knights by the window. She happily invites them to have some refreshments. However, despite wanting to, they have to decline because of their captain's orders. They explain the proper etiquette that they are not supposed to sit beside the person they are taking their orders from. Chloe apologizes that they were scolded because of her, but the knights assure her that there is no need for her to worry. Chloe then has an excellent idea. She quickly retrieves the beverage she made earlier and hands it to the knights. It's flavored oolong tea. When the knights try it, they are amazed by how delicious it is. She explains that the tea tastes fruity because it has peach in it. How refreshing! She even hands them some peach oolong tea leaves and instructs them how to make a cool brew that's suitable for the summer. The knights now see the Duchess as an angel when she tells them that they can tell the captain that the 3 of them are welcome to join her for tea anytime. She considers them as her precious tea friends after all. Later on, another commotion occurs in the training ground when the other knights want to try the beverage that Jacob is desperately guarding. Poor Jacob ends up losing his prize, and the other knights are amazed by it as well. Chloe decides to have tea with Kale and Ellie. This time, she serves them with a different kind of tea made from chrysanthemum. It's called chamomile tea. The 2 try the tea, and they are pleased by how it naturally puts one's mind at ease. Chloe even shares that the sweetness comes from the honey she added to the drink. Kale expresses how sweet and delicious it is. He thought that tea was bland like water, but he was proven wrong. The Duchess even tells him that since he has insomnia, the tea can help with that. Chamomile is known to relieve tension and improve blood circulation. The butler is incredibly grateful for the Duchess's kindness. Chloe then explains that the tea they drink is not technically a tea since it's not made from tea leaves. The technical term for it would be an herbal infusion. She then asks if it's possible for the butler to find some tea set for her, so she doesn't have to use the coffee pots and coffee cups. Kale informs the Duke about their plan to shop for tea wares. The Duke asks him to accompany his wife since he has an important task tomorrow. The butler is quite surprised that the Duke is even considering going with her. He wonders if their relationship has indeed improved. The following day, Chloe and Kale are in the market to shop. Just as they are about to enter a shop, Alphonse arrives, claiming that he was just in the area since the appointment has been canceled. However, Kale knows for a fact that his appointment is hours from the marker. Mr. Duke, you're becoming more obvious. Because Kale is a smart man, he excuses himself from the couple, claiming that he has something to buy. Left alone with his wife, Alphonse offers his hand, leading her to the shop. Upon seeing the different kinds of teacups, Chloe trembles in awe. She finds the things fascinating, while Alphonse is quite confused about how they're different from the cups they have in the mansion. She then starts explaining to clear up his confusion. He notices how her eyes shine every time she talks about tea. Her love for tea is unfamiliar to him because it's one of the things he can never do, to like something to that extent. Shortly, the store owner interrupts them. She continues looking through the different things in the store. After seeing a tea set that she likes, Chloe expresses gratitude to Alphonse. He's glad that his wife is enjoying what she's doing, so he ends up buying everything that the store has. Ugh, to be this rich. In the carriage going home, he notices that she's been quiet throughout the ride. Truthfully, she is happy with her husband's gesture, but also a bit worried that they bought too much from the store. She's also wondering if there's sufficient room in the mansion. Shortly after opening up, she realizes that he doesn't like being questioned about his capabilities. He then assures her that it won't affect the mansion's finances. Additionally, he plans to build an extra warehouse for the tea wares. In the few following days, Alphonse actually makes a warehouse perfect for tea storage. Why is she having mixed emotions about it when it's perfectly done? In the middle of thinking, while going through her collection, Kale arrives. As he's accompanying her out to lunch, he has an idea. He suggests Chloe throw a social gathering, which takes her by surprise. After Kale offers to help Chloe if she ever wants to host a gathering, she considers his suggestion. Hosting social activities is an important task for a noble wife. Eventually, she agrees to do it. In a short span of time, the news spread around the mansion quickly. The maids start gossiping about her and her plan to host a party. Silently, the head maid is looking forward to her downfall. Will she be able to make it successful this time after being humiliated last year? Meanwhile, Chloe excitedly starts planning the gathering. She's quite confident in her ability to do it, even though it won't be easy. The old Chloe may have ended up ruining the party in the past, but this time is different. I love her confidence. After finishing her plan outline, she shows it to Kale. Unexpectedly, he finds her work really good, which surprises him. He is so amazed that he would like to give her back her right to manage the budget right away. When the old Chloe had made a big mistake managing the budget before, he took charge of it temporarily. That explains why everyone is ignoring her. Presently, he gives it some thought before making his final decision. Afterward, Ellie notices that she looks tired. Chloe then proceeds to make herself tea while she's observing her. Her amusement at how she uniquely makes her tea pushes her to teach her. The scent of the savory milk tea is so irresistible that she badly wants to have a sip. In addition, warm and sweet tea is the best to drink when feeling tired. After her first sip, she confirms that it is indeed delicious. It's been a long time since she last made it, which reminds her to make one for the Duke next time as well. The day of the tea party finally arrives. The ladies express gratitude one after another. Some even bring an appreciation gift for Chloe. Momentarily, they are now settled in the dining area. Firstly, she thanks everyone for coming to her party. As the host, she's doing her job well so far. The ladies flood her with compliments, especially the tea set that she prepared for the party. Chloe explains the origin of it since they seem to be interested in it. Meanwhile, Lady Belladonna subtly contradicts her sentiments regarding the place it originated and their culture. Uh-oh, someone's jealous and it shows. But she manages to handle it professionally to avoid any awkward tension. After she introduces her handiwork, she notices that no one touched their teacup, and they're just looking at it in awe. After one of the ladies takes a sip, the others follow. Everyone's reaction is good, and they really love the tea. Lady Belladonna slightly loses her temper as she reacts aggressively. However, Chloe is grateful that most of them enjoy what she has prepared. She made a tea that could intrigue someone's curiosity so that people would love it. Whoa, her strategy is really amazing! Because of her behavior, Lady Belladonna gets called out for judging Eastern culture as uncivilized just because she doesn't like it. However, that doesn't hinder the ladies from continuing to enjoy the party. Despite the slight nuisance, the tea party ends successfully. Afterward, Chloe reads an invitation letter that she received earlier. As they are about to eat, both the Vandenberg and Fortnum couples share gratitude and appreciation for each other. Lady Fortnum looks really happy that Chloe accepted her invitation. Normally, Alphonse wouldn't reply to this kind of invitation, however, his wife is looking forward to it. Actually, Lady Fortnum is a benefactor who helped her when she was in trouble before. She gladly accepted her invitation without a doubt. He doesn't fail to notice that she's genuinely interested in it. Oh, cute! He takes notes of the little things. When Chloe invited her to the tea party, she started to have an interest in tea. It seems like she's really fond of her. However, she still lacks skill in making a good tea, so she asks for advice from her. Later on, Lady Fortnum shows her the tea that she bought recently. Just by the scent, she already knows what kind of tea it is. Shortly, she teaches her how to make good tea. Meanwhile, the men are talking in the other room. Momentarily, the ladies come up to them with a tea that Chloe personally makes. The Fortnum couple shower her with compliments as they take a sip. Even Alphonse finds it unbelievable. He notices that her attitude has changed. Before, she used to have low self-esteem, but she's different this time. She's now able to interact with such confidence. He can't help but wonder when she learned to socialize. Later that night, the Fortnum couple talks about how Alphonse is obviously interested in his wife. Not out of affection, but more like a child triggered by curiosity. This kind of curiosity is unusual to see in marriage. The next day, Chloe orders the maids to get the ingredients she needs. She plans to send her very first friend a gift. Lady Fortnum visits Chloe without notice, so she apologizes firsthand. After expressing gratitude for the jam that she made for them, she makes a suggestion about starting a business with her new invention. The couple is willing to invest if she's also willing to do business with them. She is surprised since she has never thought about it before, so now she needs to think about it and ask the Duke first. Speaking of the Duke, Alphonse arrives shortly. It seems like he hears their conversation about the business. By the way, desserts are popular among nobles. In addition, milk jam is easy to apply. It is a potential item for advertisement among noble women. He then asks her if she wants to do business. Frankly, she is not totally uninterested since she wanted to open her own tea house back when she was a student. Moreover, apart from being a duchess, she doesn't have anything to work on either, so it would be nice to have something to do. Thus, she thinks that business sounds fun. Lady Fortnum is happy with her decision. Afterwards, the maids give Chloe glances and talk about how she keeps coming to the kitchen. She has gotten a bit closer with Ellie as well. Meanwhile, Jacqueline, one of the maids who's lost in her thoughts, is surprised when she approaches her. It's surprising and unexpected that she knows her name. Well, Jacqueline is a part of the mansion, so of course the Duchess knows her. Jacqueline serves the dragon fruit and honey that Chloe asked for. She commends her for doing her task well and for not being rude this time. Has she really always been rude to her? Flashback to 6 months ago, Chloe made a lot of mistakes in doing her job. One time, she made such a huge mistake that someone had to take the blame. During an investigation, she pointed the blame at Jacqueline, who was innocent. Because of that, she was punished even though she did nothing wrong. That's such a cruel thing to do, former Chloe. Jacqueline, who was falsely accused, suffers 60 whips by the head maid. That explains her grudge towards the Duchess up until the present. To be honest, I would feel the same way too. Chloe calls the kitchen maids to give them a refreshment as a reward for their hard work during the tea party. Based on their reaction, the drink is truly delicious. Everyone except Jacqueline bows down as they express gratitude to her before she leaves. With that, she feels touched since it's her first time receiving such kindness from employees. For Jacqueline, if Chloe can prove that she really changed for the better, she won't hate her as much as before. She thinks that she'll get reprimanded for not bowing down, but she just smiles at her. Because of that gesture, she's now confused about whether she really changed or not. I hope Chloe takes a turn for the better this time. It's Chloe's first time inside Alphonse's office. He calls her to discuss the promotion of the milk jam that she made before. She has made a lot of progress, so she can't back down at this point. In addition, she doesn't need to make any investments in business at all, since her family has enough income. He gives her the option to do as she pleases if she ever wants an investment for the sake of friendship. It's really surprising how women don't have the same education opportunities as men in the Empire. It's because the Empire is afraid of women becoming powerful once they start learning more than just the recommended education. An Empire with a sexist view? How disappointing. He assumes that Chloe doesn't have any knowledge about business because of these facts, but she actually knows the basics. Moreover, she has the innovation that he doesn't have. She's truly the perfect match for him. He decides to take her to bed as soon as they're done talking. The time passes by quickly now that they're spending time together. Alphonse is about to leave, but she stops him. Chloe asks him to stay in her room for a while because she wants to spend more time together. Oh, she's making the first move! She thinks that he would refuse, but he decides to stay. Momentarily, he swiftly grabs her face. Assuming what's about to happen, she closes her eyes. But he grabs the end of her hair and kisses it. However, a maid suddenly opens the door and catches them in such a position. Now, both the maid and Chloe are panicking. Now that Chloe is alone in her room, she can't help but think of Alphonse's gesture. On the other hand, Cale is reading the business proposal that she made. He can't believe that she's able to do a good job. For him, respecting those who are worthy of respect is his motto. In his mind, the Vandenberg couple has been on completely different levels. Alphonse is a man worthy of respect, while Chloe is the opposite. Why would he think that? Even after witnessing the harassment that the employees put her through, Cale ignores it. He thinks that she deserves it, but he never takes part in harassing her. He treated her as he would a business partner. With Chloe's behavior in the present, you can tell that her attitude changed. She's now kinder, unlike before. He wonders if she really changed or not. We'll find out soon enough, though. Afterward, when the people in the mansion hear the news that the Duchess is starting a business, they think it will flop. Some argue whether she has changed for the better or not. In the middle of gossiping, Mrs. Colleen catches them in the act. Actually, she's not mad for bad-mouthing the Duchess, but it's because she's upset at the employees for thinking that Chloe has changed. She starts losing her temper as she scolds the maid. Mrs. Colleen certainly believes that Chloe is far from being loved by the Duke. She is only seen as a nuisance, and it will stay that way forever. What a strange way of thinking. Momentarily, Jacqueline interrupts and shares her opinion about the Duchess. Based on her observations lately, she can see that the Duchess has really changed for the better. Because of what she said, she got slapped by the head maid. Meanwhile, Chloe's personal maids witness the commotion. The head maid's disturbing behavior is truly shocking. She's so violent. I hate her. Chloe's 3 exclusive maids gather together for a meeting. They start planning what to do after knowing the current situation between the employees at the mansion. Moreover, there's a rumor going around that the butler will return the budget management rights to the Duchess soon. In the end, they decide to see the Duchess together. Later on, the 3 girls start apologizing to her. They kneel as they beg for her forgiveness for their brazen behavior towards her. Knowing what they did to the old Chloe, she can never forgive them. She even wants to fire all of them. However, she doesn't have any rights at the moment, so there's nothing she can do. Eventually, she makes up her mind and orders the ladies to tell her about all the things they've done to her without leaving a single detail out. They all follow and admit their mistakes one by one. She makes sure that they remember to tell her everything. It's somehow like torture, but not in a violent way. All of them did many bad things towards the Duchess before. It's impossible that the head maid wasn't aware of it. The other maids are beginning to choose Chloe's side, though. Mrs. Colleen smiles devilishly on her own. What cruelty is she planning to show this time? On the other hand, Cale approaches the Duchess to discuss something. He asks her to write the budget proposal for the second half of the year. She starts overanalyzing his favor to her. The overanalyzing part is so relatable. In conclusion, she figures out that he's trying to test her. Fortunately, she has experience with accounting, so she's quite confident about it. She accepts his favor with a huge smile. He's counting on her for that. In just a span of 2 days, Chloe finishes the budget plan that Cale asked her to do. He finds amusement in how she's able to understand everything and do a good job in such a short amount of time. Never underestimate a woman. To make it more challenging, he gives her another task again. He asks her to read the report he has written regarding the budget for the mansion's garden. After reading, she notices that there's a lot of mistakes. There are a lot of holes here and there. It's like someone tried sabotaging it or had bad intentions. Since Chloe knows that Cale wants to test her ability by finding the problem, she decides to revise it and write a new one. Now that she's done, he is impressed with her work once again. Then for the 3rd time, he gives her the budget for the kitchen as her last task. He asks her to manage it for 5 days. There's not a big schedule within the next 5 days, so the budget will be enough as long as it's handled as usual. Later on, Chloe asks Josephine, one of her exclusive maids, to write down orders to be sent to the Berkeley grocery store. After writing, she passes a letter over to the messenger. It's a really important task, so it should be done perfectly. Chloe is confident to complete the task shortly. However, a misfortune arises. Oh no, I hope it can be fixed. The ingredients that arrived from the grocery store weren't what she ordered. She decides to go to the Berkeley store by herself right away to figure things out. When she arrives, the owner is certain that he sent the right order. When he shows the letter from Chloe, she finds out that someone sabotaged it and changed the orders. She plans to get a refund, however, they will lose a lot of money. Now she doesn't know what to do anymore. Poor Chloe. Chloe is still contemplating what to do with the situation. However, she refuses to give up. That's when she overhears that the store has a cheese surplus problem. She comes up with a plan to sell the cheese. She approaches Mr. Berkeley once again to discuss something. She makes an agreement to sell all the cheese quickly. In return, she asks to let her calculate a promotional cost. If he manages to sell more than one storehouse of cheese using her method, he can give her the price at which it was sold. He trusts her judgment, so he asks about her plan. She then suggests putting 3 to 4 pieces of gold inside one block of cheese randomly and putting up a poster to promote it on a large scale. It's like using cheese for a lottery. It's a brilliant strategy, so he agrees to do it. With that, he decides to give her the deposit first. When she's back at the mansion, she gives extra pay to the maids as a small reward for their hard work. Aw, she's got all the kitchen staff's trust. During her conversation with Cale, he acknowledges her great skills and wants her to take care of the mansion's finances. With that, Chloe gains some authority. Meanwhile, the cheese is selling well, so Mr. Berkeley sends tons of gifts to her. In addition, she receives the promised profits, so now she has plenty of secret funds. Now that she has her own money, she doesn't have to rely on Alphonse. She's such an icon for that. On the other hand, Chloe punishes Josephine because she's responsible for the orders. Even though she's innocent, she's the one being suspected. Eventually, she gets fired in the end. But the truth is, Mrs. Colleen is the culprit since she paid the messenger to manipulate the order. However, now that failed, she tries to think of another one to take the Duchess down. While pampering Chloe, the maid suggests going to an ice pond in the northern forest. It's a magical yet mysterious place, and she seems excited while talking about it. Both Marie and Nina, her exclusive maids, are looking forward to the place when she decides to go on a picnic date together. Meanwhile, Mrs. Colleen takes leave to go home due to family matters. Suspicious. Actually, it was she who recommended the ice pond to Marie. It's truly beautiful, as much as it's dangerous. It's her plan to make Chloe go there in order to take her down. The following day, the ladies are on their way to the pond when they encounter the knights. When the men find out where they're going, they immediately stop them and give a warning about the dangerous place. Cluelessly, the girls don't know they're about to get into trouble. Chloe starts suspecting Marie since she's the one who recommended the place to her. However, the dots don't match, so it's unlikely. The most suspicious person right now is Mrs. Colleen. Shortly, she figures out everything about what the head maid has been doing. She's so doomed. Now that they know how dangerous the place is, the ladies are quite disappointed. However, Chloe still wants to go on with their picnic, so she asks the knights for a favor. Before anything else, she plans to take a look at the knights' headquarters first. Chloe and the rest arrive at the knights' headquarters and are welcomed by men who are training, though some are resting under the shades of the tree. A gorgeous sight. The Duchess Battenberg's arrival stuns and leaves them speechless. They immediately salute her, to her amazement. Bowing, she introduces herself and expresses gratitude for their efforts in keeping the mansion safe, a gesture uncommon among nobles. The knights are taken aback by the Duchess's actions, completely enamored by her grace. The co-commander suddenly appears, inquiring about the commotion. Like everyone else, he's shocked to see Chloe among his men. Apologizing for any inconvenience caused to the Duchess, he invites Chloe to discuss and reconcile past issues between her and his men. Chloe reassures him that there's no trouble, expressing her love for serving tea and, again, her desire to join the knights for it. The co-commander is struck by her ability to speak in a noble dialect without seeming to challenge his authority. Her gentle commands and care for the knights satisfy his curiosity about this Duchess, who becomes quite the topic. Meanwhile, the rumor of Chloe being close to the knights and being under their protection travels so fast in the palace. Mrs. Colleen can't help but feel frustrated by how the knights thwarted her plans. Instead of falling victim to the poisonous frog, Chloe returns unscathed, her reputation soaring even higher. Just before Mrs. Colleen silences Marie, Chloe asks her regarding who told her about the ice pond. A trembling Marie confesses to Chloe that it was her own accord going to the ice pond. Chloe can't help but wonder how she can keep quiet and not mention Mrs. Colleen's name until the very end. Chloe realizes that Marie is not a person she should keep by her side after overhearing Nina and Marie arguing about not trusting Chloe with the truth. Consequently, Chloe decides to dismiss Marie from the palace. Later that day, Alphonse informs Chloe about an invitation to a ball, giving her the option to decline. Surprisingly, Chloe is intrigued and opts to attend. The Duchess's presence at the ball sparks whispers throughout the room. Rumors circulate about Chloe's lack of confidence and Alphonse's apparent discomfort beside her, though some believe they make a good pair. The Duke then calls his wife and leans in to whisper about going somewhere for work. What's with the moves? It's giving me butterflies. Meanwhile, Chloe notices a group of gossiping women observing her closeness with the Duke, intrigued by their seemingly harmonious relationship contrary to the rumors. A woman interjects, commenting on the Duke and Duchess's sibling-like bond. Chloe discerns the woman's attempt to provoke an argument but simply smiles and agrees, diffusing the situation. Sibling? What is she blabbering about? The woman continues, mocking the relationship and suggesting a woman's happiness hinges on her husband's love. Chloe counters, asserting that a woman's happiness isn't solely dependent on a man's affection, but on her own fulfillment and passions. Her words stun the women in the room, challenging societal norms where women are often defined solely by their marital status. Chloe reflects on the joy she finds in brewing tea, a happiness akin to a passion that fills her with energy and vitality. The Marchioness refuses to accept such a thing, but is too shy to admit her defeat, so she dashes away from Chloe. Before her marriage, Marchioness Dyer was quite fond of the Duke. So that explains why she's being weird. Setting down her glass, she tries to temper her expectations concerning the Duke when a voice interrupts her thoughts, startling her. Chloe turns to see the man who dares to ask her for a dance. Chloe slowly turns around, only to get disappointed that it isn't the Duke who asks her to dance. She then thinks that while Alphonse is working hard, might as well just have fun, so she accepts the man's request. Just as she's about to take the man's hand, a familiar grip tightens around hers. It's Alphonse. The man tries to justify to the Duke that dancing is merely a social activity and shouldn't be a concern if he dances with a married woman. He even alludes to the Duke's reputed cold treatment of his wife, but flees mid-sentence as he notices the steely glare in the Duke's eyes. Poor fellow, fleeing for his life. The Duke then invites Chloe to dance, and as they twirl around the floor, an awkward tension hangs between them, both unable to meet each other's gaze. Chloe realizes that recalling steps in your head differs from executing them with your body. Once again, Chloe becomes the subject of gossip, with whispers circulating about her stiff dancing compared to the Duke's grace. Trembling, Chloe admits to the Duke that she's not a skilled dancer, but he pulls her closer, reassuring her that she can rely on him. Oblivious to the many eyes watching, they dance on. Aww. Chloe retreats to a room to rest, but stumbles upon a group of ladies engaging in lewd conversation. Suddenly, Chloe faces a barrage of vulgar questions. What on earth? An image flashes in her mind. She clenches her hands as she lashes out at how rude it is for these ladies to ask questions like that to someone they just met for the first time. She angrily slams the door, leaving the ladies speechless. Now, what could that image be that shook Chloe's composure? Concerned for the Duchess's well-being, the Duke suggests returning to the palace. Pak Hajiang may be familiar with dating and its intricacies, but navigating her current situation with the Duke proves to be a different challenge altogether. Despite her experience, the Duke remains somewhat of a stranger to her, but she's obligated to share her life with him as his wife. They are working on their study when the Duke asks Chloe how is her body, since she seemed pretty tired last night. As the Duke got closer, the image flashes again in her mind, making her blush hard. The Duke is captivated by Chloe's shy demeanor, finding her more enticing than any woman who has ever tried to seduce him before. Tempted by her every move, he impulsively pulls her closer and kisses her neck, just as Kale interrupts them, much to their frustration. Really, Kale? That's supposed to be the best part! Ugh! Night falls, and Chloe finds it difficult to sleep, her heart racing at the memory of the Duke's actions earlier. Suddenly, there's a knock on the door, and to her surprise, it's the Duke. He informs her that Mrs. Mason, the woman who raised him, has announced her impending visit, along with a 2-week stay. Mrs. Mason holds the title of countess and is a princess from a neighboring kingdom, with ties to the Imperial family by blood. Despite not being from the area, she commands respect from even the highest-ranking nobles. The Duke warns Chloe of Mrs. Mason's temper, but in Chloe's mind, she'll do her best to be recognized as a good wife. Mrs. Mason's arrival the next day shocks Chloe. The following day, Mrs. Mason makes her grand entrance at the palace, her gaze sweeping over the nervous Chloe, who introduces herself. However, Mrs. Mason displays no interest, expressing her fatigue from the journey, prompting Alphonse to escort her to her room for some much-needed rest. After sitting, she then notices Chloe in front of her and asks her for a drink. Chloe promptly obliges, eyeing the peppermint Mrs. Mason brought and swiftly attending to her request. Mrs. Mason is taken aback as Chloe personally went to the kitchen to get her a drink, deeming such a task beneath the dignity of a Duke's wife. However, what truly astonishes her is the seemingly uncivilized beverage Chloe presents to her. Alphonse, a husband as he is, tells Mrs. Mason that his wife's tea is special and it's not too late for her to try it before saying anything. Ah, how endearing of him! Left with little choice, Mrs. Mason reluctantly sips the misunderstood drink, only to find herself enraptured like everyone else. When Chloe saw Mrs. Mason put the peppermint on the table, she immediately assumed that Mrs. Mason liked mint and sweet things. So attentive, Chloe. You go, girl! Tame that beast with finesse! Under the enchanting glow of the moonlight, Mrs. Mason reflects on the events of the evening, contemplating whether to share something with Chloe or not. The preparations for the business venture progress steadily. The ducal couple has chosen a residential area in the capital as the store's location. Milk jam is selected because it's considered a luxury for nobles, or at least the middle class. However, Alphonse surprises Chloe by purchasing a 2-story building in the heart of the shopping district. In response to Chloe's shock, he suggests expanding the product line to make the most of the space and to maintain the family's reputation with a business bearing their name. Talk about a money flex! As a result, the store transforms into a haven for various jams, syrups, and honey. As the store nears completion, Alphonse realizes that Chloé is not only a great business partner, but also a wonderful companion. Their relationship goes beyond the mere obligations of a political marriage. Spending time with the Duchess breaks his boring routine. Though he sometimes struggles to understand her, he finds it intriguing rather than unpleasant. Meanwhile, Mrs. Mason invites Chloé for tea, unable to shake off her craving for the delightful beverage she had last time. During their conversation, Mrs. Mason probes into Chloé's married life, causing her cheeks to flush crimson. Nonetheless, Chloé responds positively. As the conversation goes on, Chloé learns more about Alphonse's upbringing and the life he has led. Alphonse's father, Ludwig Vandenberg, was a demanding nobleman who pushed his son relentlessly to achieve more. Despite inheriting his father's blood, Alphonse could never meet Ludwig's expectations. Classes began at sunrise and stretched into the late hours. Despite this, young Alphonse obediently followed his father's orders, unaware of the consequences to come. Alphonse finds himself unable to concentrate, an unusual state for him. He pauses his work, considering meeting with Chloé. However, he learns that Lady Mason has already summoned Chloé, so he heads towards them. Just as he is about to knock on the door, he hesitates upon overhearing their conversation. They are discussing him. Lady Mason recounts the hardships faced by young Alphonse. His father imposed strict rules, forbidding him from expressing his emotions and insisting on restraint and perseverance. Alphonse went to great lengths to suppress his feelings, enduring severe punishment whenever he dared to show emotion. His self-control was pushed to extremes. He wouldn't cry when beaten, nor would he react to insults. As a child, Alphonse unquestionably obeyed his father's harsh commands. However, at the age of 10, he began to question his father's teachings. In response, Ludwig locked him in a closet for 6 months, providing only minimal sustenance. Wow, is he even a father? After nearly a year in confinement, Alphonse emerged with nothing but anger and resentment in his heart, unable to express his emotions. Ludwig's death in an accident left the 14-year-old Alphonse under Lady Mason's care. Hearing Alphonse's painful past, Chloé feels his suffering as if it were her own, longing to comfort and embrace him. Suddenly, Alphonse appears, seemingly out of nowhere. Alphonse hesitates to reveal his past to Chloé. He sees her as a vulnerable woman with a pure smile, unaware of the depths of misfortune. Just as he's about to speak, he notices Chloé crying. He doesn't want to burden her with his past, believing it to be a matter of history for him. Chloé assures him that she's crying on his behalf and expresses her wish for his happiness, seeing him as beautiful despite his struggles. Grateful for her empathy, Alphonse is touched by Chloé's tears. Lady Mason bids her farewells to the couple, especially to Chloé, whom she has grown fond of. Observing their interactions, Lady Mason notes that despite Chloé learning more about Alphonse, her attitude towards him remains unchanged. Chloé sees him for who he is and accepts him wholeheartedly, leading Lady Mason to wonder if there's anyone better suited for him. I wholeheartedly agree. During one of their conversations, Alphonse suggests renovating Chloé's warehouse so she can enjoy her tea without having to trek to the kitchen. The idea of having her own tea sanctuary fills Chloé with delight. She imagines a space filled with tea, a cozy setup, and a place to relax. However, she's curious as to why Alphonse is going to such lengths for her. She then proposes the idea of producing new teapots and cups for their store opening, ones that would appeal to the people of the Empire. Without hesitation, the Duke agrees. Grateful for his support, Chloé thanks him for allowing her to have her own tea room, but he insists she call it theirs. Oh, my heart, I'm blushing along with you, Chloé! Before she knows it, the tea shop is completed, and Alphonse allows her to name it. She chooses Triple Sweet. However, the true reason he let Chloé name the shop is revealed. It's hers, a birthday gift from him. Overwhelmed by his gesture, Chloé runs to him and embraces him tightly. Meanwhile, the mansion buzzes with talk about the shop. Employees share various opinions, with some doubting Chloé's ability to run a business and others expressing confidence in her success. Finally, the day arrives for the Duke and Chloé to spend the night together. The maids seem more excited than usual, and Chloé remembers Alphonse's whispered promise to see her tonight, leaving her in a dilemma about what to do. Why am I blushing? Alphonse enters Chloé's room. It hasn't been long since Chloé saw the Duke, but her heart keeps beating so much. They spent a night of passion together. Morning came and Chloé couldn't move her body. That's why Alphonse called the doctor. The doctor tells her that the reason for such a reaction is lack of exercise. This incident became a hot topic among the employees. Although not everyone said it, it didn't change the fact that the relationship between the ducal couple has taken a huge change. Meanwhile, the tea room is finally completed, prompting Chloé to invite her closest associates for a tour. Alphonse is genuinely surprised by Chloé's decision to host guests for tea. Looking a bit jealous, are ya? She introduces her favorite milk tea to her guests, despite their initial skepticism. However, their trust in the Duchess leads them to taste it. To their surprise, the milk tea receives high praise, prompting even the Duke to consider selling it in the shop. After receiving an overwhelmingly positive response to her milk tea, Chloé takes a moment to contemplate while peacefully sipping her tea. Suddenly, Prince Arthur Connoisseur Vladimir, next in line to the Empire's throne, enters the room. He's cute, but too airy. He is a typical troublemaker prince who hasn't even been appointed as the crown prince yet. Chloé feels uncomfortable with him there, given also that a few years ago, Chloé confessed her love to him only to be given a laugh out of him. Chloé turns as Alphonse also enters the room and introduces his wife with such expression in his face. It's apparent that Arthur still believes he holds some power over his relationship with Chloé, as he casually asks her to make him tea, expecting her to know his preferences. Chloé, despite her dislike for him, obliges and asks about his preferred tea. How about poison tea? That will humble him up. Chloé decides to serve him Earl Grey, which amazes Arthur for its taste like a scent from women's perfume. Suited for a playboy like him. Arthur is impressed by Chloé's knowledge of tea, while Alphonse quietly enjoys his tea, equally impressed. As Arthur bids his farewell, he attempts to thank Chloé in a seductive manner, but she quickly retreats, covered by Alphonse, who asserts his role as her husband. How protective of him. In response, Arthur raises his hands in defense and teasingly asks Alphonse if he's perhaps feeling jealous. Arthur finally leaves, but Chloé can't shake the feeling that something is still off in the atmosphere. Meanwhile, Alphonse appears preoccupied, his mind consumed by thoughts of Chloé possibly choosing Arthur, despite their agreement to respect each other's privacy. Seriously? Might want to rip that contract up if I were you. But just by the thought of it, he suffers from his inexplicable feeling. He glances at his wife, with an open jewelry box in hand, thanking her for being such a good companion. Wow, talk about grand gestures! But instead of accepting it, Chloé wants something humbler, something much simpler. She appreciates his sincerity, but she didn't marry him to be given an award every time. Unfortunately, the palace hosts a couples gathering shortly after, while Chloé and Alphonse are still in a very awkward atmosphere. She can't decline such an invitation because it's hosted by the Emperor himself. Behind the Emperor is Arthur, who seems to be excited by the appearance of the Vandenbergs. The couple start to talk about their interests. They ask Chloé of hers, but Alphonse straightforwardly answers in her stead, threatening anyone who dares to speak ill of Chloé's fondness of tea. But the word must have gotten out. Everyone is intrigued with her tea, so everyone wants to try it as well, even His Majesty himself. Though burdensome, Chloé can't refuse, and her Tiguanyin tea leaves everyone amazed, including the Emperor himself, who praises her and commends Alphonse for having such a wife. On the way home, Alphonse apologizes for the events of the previous day, which Chloé graciously accepts. As she's about to step out of the carriage, Alphonse offers his hand, stirring her heart. Despite her efforts to compose herself, her feelings intensify, especially when Alphonse pulls her into a tight embrace, momentarily halting her racing thoughts. Alphonse admits to Chloé that he still struggles with expressing his emotions, but he assures her that he's willing to make the effort to learn if it's what she desires and if she's willing to wait. Meanwhile, Mrs. Colleen overhears whispers among the maids about Chloé's infamous hug. Her determination to discredit Chloé only intensifies. The following day, Chloé is getting ready for a party with two maids assisting her in dressing up. Despite her lack of fashion expertise, she steps out in a red dress, not entirely comfortable but determined nonetheless. Everyone is speechless with what they're seeing. Even the newly married Madame Fortnum can't help but to snatch her away from the curious stares of the household staff. She tells Chloé that her appearance resembles that of the Marquise Dahlia's daughter, who is Duke Vandenberg's ex-girlfriend. Chloé immediately suspects Mrs. Colleen's involvement. So they saw an amazing designer who, upon inspecting Chloe, objectively tells her opinion about the dress she's currently in, not knowing she's the Duchess Vandenberg. Upon learning Chloe's identity and realizing the limited time to prepare her for the event, the designer initially hesitates but eventually agrees to the challenge. Meanwhile, the party guests begin to wonder about the absence of the Duchess, maliciously linking it to past events. Mrs. Colleen is getting anxious that something is not sitting right with her plans. Suddenly, the doors swing open, revealing the arrival of the Duke and the Duchess. Everyone is stunned by Chloe's beauty, particularly catching the attention of the men. Well, what can he do? Alphonse is even more smitten. Mrs. Colleen is left dumbfounded by the turn of events, so she tries to run. Unfortunately, her eyes catch Chloe's gaze. So guys, what do you think of this story so far? Please subscribe and turn on notifications for updates on this and all our other stories, so you can be the first to find out when they're out. Thank you so much for your support. See you in the next one!